Today is 15th of December. The month is called Marga Shirsha, second half, Krishna Paksha. Today is third and fourth. Basically, tonight is a Sankashti Chaturthi. So that's the day we do special prayers for Ganesha. The name of the year is called Vikari Nam Samvatsar. I don't need to remind you in Minnesota that the sun is going towards south, Dakshinayan. I wrote the note Shishir Rutu thinking it was cold, winter. But when I looked at my notes, it is still Hemant Rutu. It's not Shishir according to Hindu calendar. Couple of important dates to remember were last Sunday when we had the beautiful presentation from Professor Ram Bachchan was Mokshada Ekadashi. That means that was the day in 1337 BC that Lord Sri Krishna told Gita to Arjuna. Is still just as valid today as it was at that day. On 11th was the full moon of Marga Shirsha. That was the day when Lord Datta was born. The auspicious days, of course, were 11, 12, 14th last week. And this week they're going to be 19, 20, 21. 15 today is a very happy day according to the description. And 18th is going to be a very good day. Every day is a good day if you make it good. But nonetheless, the position of the stars makes you emphasize some of the days more than others. I gave you a title of Living the Life of Contentment, not because that's the only way to lead a life of contentment, but sometimes when you're able to share your life with others, sometimes it can influence or even benefit other people. That's the reason I thought this would be a good title to conclude that circle in that particular fashion. I'm of course partial. To me, Sanskrit is the perfect language, Samskrita. It's an amazing language, and for a word like water, there are more than 80 words, each word describing a classic form of water. Today, if you take the word teacher, there are several words for in Sanskrit. To give a simple example, Adhyapak, meaning a teacher, is the one who gives you information. Upadhyaya is also a teacher who imparts knowledge with information. Acharya is the one who imparts a specific skill, whereas Pandit is the one who gives you deep insight into a subject. Drishtacharya is the one who visionary views on a particular subject and teaches you to think in that particular fashion. But perhaps the most important teacher of all is Guru, who awakens individual's inner wisdom and leads him from darkness of ignorance to the light of wisdom. For Kumud and I, as we have shared before, it was the enlightened traditional teacher in the body of Swami Dayananda. Ever since that important day in September 2012, our memory has come back just the way Arjuna expressed in 18th chapter, Nashto moha smrutir labdha. I have overcome my delusion and regained my memory of my true identity. The 73rd verse of the 18th chapter. We both, Kumud and I, since that day have found and experienced phenomenal clarity of our true identity. Questions and conflicts that exist in our minds have gradually dissipated. Confusing statements in the writings of spiritual thinkers and scholars are no longer confusing. And most importantly, we're able to reach the deep state of meditation on a consistent basis. Previously, we could do occasionally, but not on a consistent basis. Most importantly, of course, we both feel very happy, content, and at peace, fulfilled in our life, wanting nothing more. Basically, the way Lord Sri Krishna in the 54th verse of the second chapter said, Atmanya Atmana Trishtaha. Remain satisfied in the self alone, by the self, while pursuing one's duty, daily routine activities. It's important to understand that what has changed in our lives is not what we do, but only how we do it. How we look at the things has changed. We do exactly the same things, but how we do the same things has changed dramatically. Understanding about our own true nature has changed like a night and day. Our outlook towards life has also changed dramatically. As the blessed individuals, we recognize with due humility that we are not limited, we are not wanting, we are not sorrowful, a typical feeling for every enlightened jiva. We know in reality that our true nature is Sat Chittananda, Sat representing eternal existence, and that's the talking about the immortality, and that's what we discuss, understanding of death in Vedanta. Absolute consciousness, Chit, because without the sentience we would be here. And that sentience has come all from God. And with that knowledge, we have a feeling of overflowing joy, Ananda, translated in English, fullness, happiness, and contentment. We have learned since that clarity that it's not a matter of acquiring something, but that process was instead getting rid of something that we had falsely taken upon ourselves as a false sense of limitation, being time-bound, and being ignorant about the needs to be rid of. Previously, as a typical human being, you would get afraid, oh my God, the death is going to become, what am I going to happen, what's going to happen about the family. But having had a clear understanding as to what the death is, you're no longer afraid of death. We had to recollect that we were already that missing 10th man. We just had to give up the notion the 10th man was ever lost, with exactly the same person we were looking for all our life. Does everyone remember that story of the 10th man? You may not remember it quite, I'll tell you. In an ashrama, an enlightened teacher does not have hundreds of students or thousands of people that the universities have, but usually there are about a dozen of people out there. And this teacher had 10 people in his class. And he was going out for some other activities a few miles away. So he instructed that you should continue your daily activities, which I have taught you. But make sure you take care of each other. And it's always the habit, and we always do in our camps here, that the senior student is given the instructions that you are in charge. In the olden times, they didn't go to Cub Groceries or Target, Super Target, where you got the groceries, but you had to go to the forest and get the food and all the necessary needs to survive and keep yourself warm, especially in a place like Minnesota. So obviously they had to walk around, and while going to get certain things, they had to cross a stream of water. But again, the person who was the senior had to make certain everybody was safe. And then they swam across the water, and he lined up everybody else, all the people from his group, and counted them. There were 10 of us, 10 of them. And he counted, every time he counted 9. So all of them took the turn, and all of them counted 9, and everybody was worried the 10th man was lost. Till such time that the wise, enlightened individual came around. He came and told, why don't you count one more time? And when he counted up to 9, the teacher said, young man, you are the 10th. So basically, sometimes we don't realize that we already have it till the time an enlightened teacher reminds you that you are exactly what you're looking for. The story of the 10th man. Now we are fully dedicated to get rid of all our likes and dislikes, or passions and aversions. And this process of getting rid of them, it's called tyaga or renunciation, as Sri Krishna described. We retired from our gratifying and very busy practice of medicine mainly because of the challenges that this, our temple, had faced, had to be addressed immediately. Initially, we were rather unhappy, my wife more than me, about that situation, since we had enjoyed serving our patients for 47 years in the Twin Cities and 61 years in total since we finished your medical school. But we also had a clear understanding when we took that step that God knows what is best for us. After having now retired over 10 years, both of us can clearly see the divine plans far more clearly. Now we understand as well that what Lord Sri Krishna said responding to Arjuna's question about renunciation in the 18th chapter. You said renunciation is the best. What do you mean by, teach me what is to be renunciated? He said, Yajna tana tapa karma natyajam karyameva tat yajnyodanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishina. 5th verse of the 18th chapter. When translated in English, he says, give up binding desires and abandon all forms of actions for personal gains, but maintain acts of worship through sacrifice, yajna, charity, dana, and austerity, tapas. These are the purifiers of the wise people. Now, charity is a great virtue. For giving one must earn, and for earning one must work. So work is to be done for giving to charity, because that's the highest form of joy. Service to the society becomes the worship, and that sacrifice is yajna. Not simply the homas that we do. Tapas is a life of self-control and self-discipline. These days, we dedicate our time for as many social service that our body can allow, but always in the spirit of serving God. And that's in English, Sanskrit called Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. At this stage, we all of us might as well refresh our memory as to what we have been taught, as to why and how and to whom we should make donations or charitable gifts. Once in a while it's good to remind ourselves. It has been said, Shraddhaya deyam, Ashraddhaya no deyam, Shriya deyam, Riya deyam, Samvida deyam. I know most of you understand Sanskrit, but I'll translate it. Charitable donations are made with an attitude of worship, Shraddhaya deyam. Donate generously, but according to one's means. Can you explain what the up to means? Let me tell you. Best is the charity that is given till it hurts you. Now, do you remember the story of mongoose? Well, let me tell you. Many times when people do big yajna, sacrifice, celebration, it gets to their head. So this was a big yajna that was performed by Pandavas called Rajasuya Yajna. And they had given lots of presents to the subjects, but also the priests who conducted the puja. And they were gloating in the balcony of their palace how wonderful they were in being spending that much amount of money and resources to distribute all these gifts to everybody else. And Yudhishthira, Dharmaraja asked, wasn't that a wonderful yajna that we conducted? A person who is an enlightened individual, like a radiologist, can see right through you, and he realized that the ego is getting to them. So what Sri Krishna did was with his power, Maya called, brought a mongoose on the floor, and he was rolling from one side to another where yajna was performed, and was complaining it was not a worthwhile yajna. And all the subjects and priests were upset when the yajna was done perfectly. So much money resources were spent. This mongoose just doesn't understand and complains that was not a good yajna. And he said, if you look at me, half side of my body is golden, but the other half is not golden. I wanted to make sure that other side which is not golden becomes golden if the yajna was done perfectly. So the people around asked, including now Pandavas in the presence of Sri Krishna, can you tell us how one side became golden? He said, well, I'll tell you. It was a story long time ago when there was a famine in such and such a place. And then there was no food to eat till such time that a rich man with his vanity came and distributed a fair amount of food, so the villagers had some food to eat, at least for one good meal. So they got the food, they prepared the rotis, made 4 rotis, and the father, mother, son, and his wife, each one of them had a roti. And as they sat down to eat, they did the prayers, and there was a knock on the door. There's a poor man outside knocking on the door, saying, I'm hungry, I've not eaten in days. Can you give me food? So father of the house got up and said, come on in, please. Because in our system, Matru Devo, mother is in the place of God, Pitru Devo, father in the place, Guru Devo, teacher in that place, and Atithi Devo, the guest, invited or uninvited, still a God. So he invited him and offered his own roti. He had nothing. He ate, didn't quite burp at that time, but he said, I'm still hungry. So his wife gave the roti. He continued. His son gave the roti. And his daughter-in-law gave roti. And then the man was pleased, blessed them, and walked away. And mongoose was watching to the open window of that house. And as one would expect, all of them died. Mongoose went inside and rolled over the crumbs which were on the floor, where this visiting guest had eaten all the food, which resulted in the death of the entire family. And that side which touched the crumbs became golden. So that is the story of give to charity till it hurts. So don't show off that you have been able to give because you're given $100,000. It means nothing as long as you could have given much more for a worthwhile cause. And again, our teaching continues, Datavyam iti danam. Yatavyam iti yaddanam. Diyate nupakarane. Deshe kale cha patre cha. Taddanam satvikam smrutam. When one makes charitable gift with an attitude that making this charitable gift or donation is individual's duty, such a gift has to be done at the proper time and place and to the proper individual. And without any personal agenda, that act of charity, as Sri Krishna says in the 17th chapter, as a sattvic, a perfect highest quality of dhan. Again, this also has been described in the Devala Smriti subsequently in the scriptures. And it's important that who to give, when to give. And perhaps the most important is when you give the donations or give the help or charity, give the charity with an attitude of a friend. Never feel the poor person feel that he is a beggar. Maintain your attitude in such a way that the individual receives has his own self-esteem. You don't need to take the notes down. I'll send everybody notes, okay? I'll send everybody. Yeah. Just like every part of our body plays an important role, we must all remember that each individual in our society, though may perform different functions, is equally important. We know that feet have to walk, fingers have to do the work, not just simply shopping, but fingers have to do the work. Only the lucky mouth is the one who eats. The nourishment is taken by the mouth, however, nurtures not only the mouth, but the entire body, including those walking feet and working fingers. Besides, when any one part of our body is injured, we as human beings feel totally miserable all over. Similarly, with the new Vedantic vision, we must remind ourselves that if any individual in our society is hurting and starving for basic necessities of life, just food, shelter, or clothing, it is our collective responsibility as the able and fortunate members of the society to feel that pain. Through our new and improved vision, our love and compassion prompt us to jump into an appropriate action, considering that as our unique privilege to serve those unfortunate individuals. Not an obligations, but privilege that you're getting a chance to do it. We have learned that in order to understand the importance of anything, we had to look at the contents and not the external wrapper. Of course, that's how the American marketing is. That's a different story. We must not get carried away by the color of the skin, color of the eyes, and color of the hair as well. We are not influenced by the age or gender of anyone who is suffering. Shri Krishna says in the 7th verse, the 7th chapter, Mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. We now recognize that the identical or the same thread of divinity runs through each and every one of us. Only when we get to know and truly understand that this divinity, divine identity, permeates to everyone, despite apparent diversity, can we truly function most effectively and celebrate the harmony in our lives. Now we've gotten over the concept of this world as a place of acquiring things or simply indulging in pleasures. Both of us understand it. Now we have turned our life into giving and serving more than what we did in the past. Majority of us here are householders, and we perform activities based upon our stage in life, and that's perfectly fine. For each one of us to stay in a state of constant happiness is to lead of the life of karma yogi. Sannyasi is different. Samsari has to do karma yogi. You have the right only to the action, never to its fruit. So says Lord Shri Krishna, karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. We often in our American society recognize then action is inevitable. But in this material world, we still tend to ask the question, what is in there for me? Action must be performed for the sake of action. The Lord manifests to us in the form of this creation. That's how the Hindu faith is. When we worship Him through our actions become the offering to God. Every action, when performed with an attitude of a true devotee, the action becomes a flower that is offered at the feet of the Lord with utmost devotion. This attitude of offering the action to the Lord is the real karma yoga, a perfect path to follow for each one of us as householders. Now, this is important to understand. Karma yoga is neither a skill in performance of action, nor the length of time spent on performing the actions, but instead simply the attitude of offering to Lord while performing the action. Something to remember. With Vedantic vision, what realizes that the action is to perform in totality, entirely for Ishvara. Thus, by serving everyone in need, we actually are serving God, and thus rejoice our good fortune that we have been offered that opportunity. Vedantic vision states the action is not wasted away in acquiring wealth or any other material thing in life. Action has to be performed for the sake of action, for serving to the Lord, worshiping Him by one's actions, man gets perfection. Sri Krishna says in the 46th verse of the 18th chapter, Swakarmana tamabhyarcham siddhim vindati manava. Acquiring the things that we do not have is always very challenging. Come. Acquiring things that we do not have is always challenging. It takes time, hard work, money and resources to acquire the things. However, trust me when I say to give away the things that belong to us is so much easy and most importantly, so very rewarding and gratifying. So get something you have to earn and work hard. But give away, no big deal. Just give away. With this mature vision, you can clearly see there's far more greater joy and ease in giving than in receiving. True sannyasa is the renunciation of selfishness accompanied by the positive attitude of serving and giving. All of us, every one of us here, must also understand that everything received by us in our lives is despite ourselves. Everything we have needed in our life has been provided by God through different individuals over the years, starting with our own parents when we were fully dependent as babies. Due to our arrogant and egotistic attitude, we think that we have achieved those things only because of our hard work and intelligence. Honestly, I can tell you that Kumud and I have indeed faced enormous number of challenges in our lives. But only because of the help that we received from the most unexpected quarters all through the years that has allowed us to tide over those calamities. Yes, we've been blessed in our lives with so many wonderful things, too many to enumerate, including this very community. Otherwise, who would come from tropical warmth to the North Pole cold tundra to Minnesota? But trust me when I say, having lived in 3 different places in the United States and lived in India for so many years, till for first 27 years in life, the community that we have been blessed to have here is unique, and at least we feel blessed for being in this community. We know that this has come about despite ourselves. It was none other but it was the divine grace. Sure, all of us have worked all through the hearts very hard. But look at it carefully. Who gave us the opportunity to perform those activities? Of course, only God. Now let me tell you that I trust that the very same God will take care of every one of us in the coming years. We just have to remain cognizant of that divine energy that allows us to function and continue our service to others. We have to maintain a balance in both success and failure. Maintaining equanimity, success and failure, you must accept all types of outcomes as prasada, blessing or grace from God. Shri Krishna says, Siddhya Siddhyoho Samobhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. 48th, second chapter. Even when the outcomes are not to our liking, after a few years in life, one comes to realize that in the long run, that specific painful outcome was exactly which led to that ultimate success. Our temple getting vandalized is one such example. I mean, we have faced so many challenges in our personal life and the public life that all of us have shared together. But if you look back, called Simhavalokan, looking like a lion looking at the back, you realize those painful acts, painful situations have benefited each and every one of us in the long run. Finally, I plan to share with you a few things that Kumud and I do in order to remain happy despite all the challenges we come across every day. No one has to emulate us at all. Everyone here has to settle on the practical things they need to do so as to reach a happy state of mind first and maintain that situation. No single specific technique can ever be suitable for everyone. That's the beauty of our faith tradition. It gives each and every one of us a total freedom to make choices. Friends, our eating habits have not changed. We eat exactly the same food. We sit exactly the same way. We dress exactly the same way. Actually, you remember Sri Krishna is being asked by Arjuna, Shita pradnyasya ka bhasha samadhistha keshava sitadhi kim prabhasheta. How he eats. Only difference is that we dedicate our life mostly for the others in the world instead of mostly dedicating to ourselves that we did in the past. Every day, we both of us do prayers together after I finish the morning puja. We pray before every meal. We recite at least one chapter of Gita every day. We meditate daily. We remain grounded in the knowledge that everything happens only because of God, and we accept as prasada or the divine grace whatever outcomes comes our way through all our daily activities. When we are in our car, we either listen to recordings of Gita, Upanishads, or some other devotional music, or our favorite Marathi or Hindi songs from our younger days, or listen to NPR. These Sunday presentations got started on May 6, 1979, in the old temple on Polk Street, 1835 Polk Street. Those weekly discussions have inspired both of us to study several Hindu scriptures in depth so that we could make appropriate presentations. Sometimes, remember as we have discussed, Gunatraya Vibhaga, three qualities of Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. And they are like three siblings working together. One is more dominant than the other. Not one is not important. Everything is equally important at the times. When you were starting those discussions, you did not want to come across as a fool, a total fool. So that time the Rajasic activity came back in forum that forced us to read more different books on the same subject that we were discussing. Listen to talks given by scholars. So you made presentations in a reasonably appropriate way. So that was the way that forced us to learn about it. That has benefited us tremendously. As a matter of fact, if you remember Kumud, Swami Bhashananda came. He said, Shashikant, you have to start speaking. I said, I don't know anything. He said, no, you know enough. Read. So that is how it started on May 6, 1979. As a matter of fact, Many of you will remember it. You came a little later in the 80s. As a matter of fact, Gita, you were not there as often as your father came and asked questions. I remember discussing Gita and questions there. So I feel, Pujaba, you've been there for quite some time, poor guy. What I'm trying to say is that those things have benefited us tremendously. But that is because our teachers forced us to do that. And that has benefited all the way through. Now, we learned during those presentations, but most importantly, through the question and answer sessions, we always followed the presentations. Now, Naina Ramakrishna is not there, but her father will be always the first person who asks question every time after Sunday presentation. And I did most every Sunday presentations was Dr. Dixit. So it's kind of nice. And when the funny part about it is, when those questions came, the answers came out of my mouth without knowing where they came from, honestly. Because honestly, the answers came out, and somewhere down the road, 3 years down the road, that I was reading some different book on scripture, I realized the exact quotation was there. But why I remembered it at that time, I really cannot explain. But again, if we have talked about the reincarnation in the past, we talked about it. At that time, you'll understand that that information is there. As a matter of fact, when I was talking with Swami Dayananda, our teacher, Swamiji, I have not taken a Diksha from you formally. And typically, you need to spend so many years with the Guru to learn something. He said, if you read the 6th chapter, you'll find out. Once you have started the education, you can start exactly the same place, 43rd verse of the 6th chapter, from the same point where you left off. So it remains in your memory, and whenever it's needed, it seems to come back from whenever it is. So that has benefited a great deal for us. Then, within 2.5 years, we had Professor Prasanna Kumar join me in the discussion, so benefited from him. Professor Ram Bachchan joined me in 1987 when he came, and despite the fact that he had the opportunity to become the only chair of Hinduism in the North America, in Montreal, he turned it down to stay in the Twin Cities, and we as a community are blessed to have him participate in the discussions at least once a month. We also have been blessed by the teachings by the enlightened Swami, so Swami Bhashyananda. He has been our guru since early 70s when we met him in Pittsburgh, and ever since we moved to Minneapolis, he always came and stayed at our place once a year at least. He was like your father figure, remember? He even did the Vastu Shanti, the Griha Shanti. That means when you start a new home, you do the Shanti for the house. He's the one who did it. Of course, Swami Chinmayananda has stayed with us for 3 years, every year coming for 3 years in a row, at least 1 week. He would enjoy going on the boats. But again, he gave lectures in the evening, Ned, but during the day we were always talking. So it's kind of fun to learn from somebody on one-on-one basis, because what you read in his writings or his lectures is different than what you learn from the interactions of the individual. Same thing for Swami Dayananda and Swami Vidyadharma. Also, we had the opportunity to spend time in Chinmayananda's ashram in Powai in Bombay too, and also of course Dayananda in Sellersburg and Bhashyananda at Vedanta Society in Chicago. And the point is, you come across good people and they influence you in different ways. They force you to read different things which you otherwise would not read, and that is how your character is developed. So is all that has benefited both of us. And of course, we both of us are involved in running the Hindu youth camps in 1981, and still runs here. And of course, we started HATS in 2009 here. Again, I remind Prasanna and everybody else, the best way to learn is to teach, and Nate certainly knows that. So I think the getting involved in this process has benefited, and for that, thank you. So finally, I would urge everyone here to continue our spiritual growth in this human life, while you still have the freedom to make choices. We talked about Manushyatvam, Mumukshvatvam, Mahapurusha Samshraya. These are 3 divine graces. Being born as a human being itself is a special grace, because you can have a logic and take choices. You should visit his Hindu temple regularly and absorb the intense spiritual vibrations here in this Vastu. I can feel it, especially when you go the temple hall upstairs. When you go upstairs, take the darshan. And darshan is basically of the living entity with each of the with murtis. But darshan is both giving and taking. So when you are taking darshan from God, God also is giving darshan of you. So God is sending spiritual vibrations to you. So when you do the prayer, sit down there in the chair for a little while and get those vibrations. And of course, being in the company of individuals who have similar interests benefits. Study Gita, Upanishad, and most important, don't forget the iconic Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata. That will help you because ethical and moral stories have not changed in centuries. And we have to use them in Kali Yuga. I don't know, Vatsal, if you remember, I think you shared with me a video of a scholar who was answering a question of a woman, how the same ethical values, dharma and duty, and moral and ethical values got modified based upon the yuga. You remember that? Yeah. Where you're talking about Rama was the one who was upholding the dharma and truthfulness at enormous pain, doesn't matter any difference. Sri Krishna, that was in Treta Yuga. In Dwapar Yuga, Sri Krishna, also incarnation of Vishnu, was willing to make modifications, but the principle behind that dharma was never destroyed. So what we are saying is, as the yuga changes, the ethical and moral values remain exactly the same, but you modify according to the changes of time. Now we have come in the Kali Yuga, in the Western world, we have to use the newer technologies in such a way that enhance the ethical and moral values and go back again to Satya Yuga, because it's a cycle of Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali. It's our opportunity, living in the Kali Yuga, which started 3102 plus add to that 22,000, about more than 5,000 years ago. So we've got a few more years to go, but nonetheless, we can go back to the age of truthfulness. So it's our important duty to use those values taught in iconic itihasas and modify according to the changing of the times. I know I'm rambling the whole morning, but let me summarize a few pointers that you might consider. One, not everybody will agree, but I'm telling you what we feel strongly. Every individual needs a living enlightened guru, spiritual guru, who himself was trained and enlightened with traditional teachings in order to rekindle the memory of our true identity. Your true nature being Satchidananda, eternal existence, absolute consciousness, and overflowing happiness and contentment. Think positively about all the things that happen in your life. Even when the calamities befall you, accept them with open arms, and God will direct you to take essential and logical steps. Over a period of time, you will understand that these calamities were exactly what you needed to reach some important goals which otherwise you would not have reached. Remember always, God knows what is best for each and every one of us. Overcome the typical human weaknesses such as overt attachment, anger, greed, delusion, arrogance, and jealousy. Or as mentioned, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, matsarya. Inculcate positive values described beautifully in the 13th chapter from 8 to 13, or in the second half of the 12th chapter, such as humility, love, compassion, forgiveness. I don't like forgiveness as much as kshama. Kshama means forgiveness has a tendency to, I'm better than you, you made a mistake, I forgive you. That's arrogance. Kshama is, Even though you've done wrong to me, I still see the goodness in you. I still want to help you. I'm not going to make you suffer for mistake that you have made, but I still want to help you. That kshama is far more powerful than forgiveness. Balanced attitude towards success and failure, and also having balanced attitude when you are praised or censured. Learn to respect parents, elders, teachers, and guests, both invited and uninvited, expected and unexpected. Treat everyone with equal love and respect. And most importantly, if you fail to fulfill any of these strengths of character, on some occasions, be compassionate towards yourself and learn from those expectations, those particular experiences. And be kind to others for their own failures in similar situations as well. Maintain utmost devotion to God Almighty. Extend unconditional love to your spouse and children. Try and extend the same courtesy to your friends and family. Give all typical selfish human activities, but instead stay focused on performing divine worship through sacrifice, charity, and austerities. And last but not the least, see equal and identical divinity in everyone. I hope you'll forgive us for being rambling this morning, but we did want to share with you ours, Kumud's and mine, life of happiness and contentment that we have shared over 62 years. We're married for 57 years, but we've been together since the age of 17 when we met in medical school. And again, want to thank you for this happy journey. And we hope and pray that we would have the privilege of having your continued love and company, and also retain your personal strength and energies, our own, in order to serve you for many years to come. Let me conclude by one of the favorite words of mine. Sing with me. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amrutam gamaya. O Lord, please lead me from untruth to truth, from the darkness of ignorance to the light of wisdom. Lead me from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace unto us all.